to the Garden Report, Celtics post-game edition, first one in a while. Figured Celtics played back-to-back here in Vegas. Not the most consequential roster in terms of the regular Celtics this time around, so I figured we'd group it together. Josue Pavon's here, back in Boston. I'm here in Vegas. And just taking another loss for the Celtics, and I think it is indicative of what they have here, Josue, that they are 0-2. Jordan Walsh is trying to figure it out. Rough game today after banging knees. J.D. Davison, turnover frenzy, and he did sign a two-way deal today as well. Justin Champagnie hasn't played great basketball overall here. And not a ton of intrigue up and down this roster in terms of the other two-way spots. We can kick around Jay Scrubb a little bit, who I know people are excited about. But overall, Josue, where are you going from these last two games?
Well, it's funny, Bobby. Because of this one, I was going to lead with Champagnie because I felt like he was the one that sort of had that overall solid performance, obviously here in a losing effort. But you look at his rebounding, look at the way he's able to slash and can pass a bit too. He can really stuff the stat sheet. So I think that's encouraging. But yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to take away in the sense of, players that we're convinced that can make an immediate impact. But you're seeing these guys, you're wondering where they're going to be at the end of the summer, going into training camp. And of course, after an incredible or at least that first half out of Jordan Walsh, or that first game, I should say, overall. I mean, 4 3-pointers. I mean, he made all the first 3 in a row in that first quarter. Really got Celtics fans excited. And I guess the scouting report was out on him in game 2 because the Washington Wizards, man, they gave him little to no space whenever he got the ball from behind the arc. And I just felt like when he got that injury, kind of rocked his rhythm a bit throughout the rest of the game. So you couldn't see the whole picture. I feel like game 1 was obviously a better showing, but we'll see how he bounces back. But overall, yeah, I mean, Jay Scrubb gave you some energy off the bench. But yeah, I would think I'd say after this game 2, that Champagnie was the one that outshine the rest of the players for sure.
Yeah, he's a good rebounder, scrappy defender out there. He rebounds well for his size, getting inside. Got swallowed up more in that first game. Miami had some good big men. Jordan was saying that Washington more perimeter oriented with their defense. They had that guy Koulibaly, who I thought was great here defensively, blocked Jay Scrubb hard in that second half. I think it was at the rim. So he's pretty impressive. And Jordan, I think through 2 games, 1 good game, 1 bad game, you feel good because you saw the 3-point shooting. You saw him hit open shots. And one thing he talked about yesterday is playing a role with this team that's going to look similar to what he would play in Boston. So I think out of all these guys, he's the most important because he can actually play for this team year 1, Josue, where you don't have Grant, where you don't know what you have in O'Shea Brissett yet. And Delano Banton, we'll get to him in a minute, but I'm not even sure he's officially signed yet. And he's not healthy enough to play in Summer League right now, which isn't a great sign for him. But there's a door for Jordan. And I'm not saying he's going to come in and play a ton of minutes this year, but there's room for him to play a little bit potentially here. I mean, why would you sign him to a full deal anyway? Otherwise,
right. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, I don't think he's a shoo-in for a rotation spot, but there is a path for him to get minutes, and that's obviously when you consider, Al Horford, which we're all expecting him not to play on the second night of back-to-backs, and Rob may have some injury concern, things like that, which is kind of what we've seen throughout the last couple of years, but you also see a lot of confidence out of him, if you ask me, right?
Especially I see it too.
1.
Yeah,
it's just like it's second nature to him, and I feel like those are the type of guys who you don't have to worry about them being afraid of that big moment, right? Checking into the game. You just wonder how they're going to respond against NBA talent, right? I mean, that's obviously always the line that people use when assessing Summer League, right? And I think for someone who was picked that late in the draft, even if he were to stick around and not spend the majority of the season in Maine, would be very beneficial for someone like Jordan Walsh. Obviously checks a lot of the boxes of what we want to see out of the front court in terms of playing defense. The 3-point shot is sort of a bonus, right? Kind of that's not what the Sky report said, right? That was sort of the one thing when people say, like, man, this guy can't shoot, but he'll do the other things where, seeing him get that down in game 1 of Summer League obviously got a lot of Celtics fans excited. But overall, I just think you should take away his confidence and the fact that he's not afraid of that moment. At least right now, he's not showing that.
Yeah, and it was funny. He was talking yesterday about how Joe and everyone in the facility were saying, shoot, shoot, shoot. He was like, I've never shot this many threes. 6 threes again today.
Yeah,
3
they had
times.
they forced him. It wasn't just about encouraging him. It was like, man, they're forcing me to take that shot, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's good because I think that when you see his confidence and when you see him be encouraged that way, he's not going to shy away from that moment, even if it's only summer league and he's a second round pick. So that's good. That's good for someone who didn't spend a whole lot of time in college.
And one thing he talked about, and that you saw a little bit on the film, is he can pass. 3 assists. I think he had a behind the back, I think, to Bean in this one. He's got some finesse with the ball on the move, especially in transition. I actually talked to his college teammate, Nick Smith, out here, who's playing on the Hornets. And he was like, he's fun to run with in transition because you can hit him with the alley-oop, or he might find you for a 3. There's a good fast break game to him. He fired one into the crowd on the break in this one, though, and you just saw him kind of get that dejected look. I see some people in the comments are saying that he lost confidence after missing a couple early. A few of those were heaves late in the shot clock.
Yeah,
he didn't get the best looks early, and yeah. I'm sure the knee hurt too after for a little while there. So I'm not too concerned about this one. I do love his tenacity in the rebounding area. The defense, you can definitely put him on one guy and really say lock in on this guy. But in this defense, it's going to be about switching. It's going to be about being on a string. And that's something we'll see into the preseason and stuff, I'm sure, when he actually gets with some of the other guys out here. But it was funny. He was talking about trying to get Tatum's attention with those threes. And
yeah, that was funny.
Paul Pierce wasn't showing him much attention today. So he's still trying to prove himself. But you feel that confidence and almost a little bit of swagger from him, which I like. I like this guy, Josue. Remember draft night? He wasn't like one of my top targets out here, but you watch the guy's film from college, and he's just so energetic and aggressive.
Yeah.
And 4 fouls in this one. You have 10 fouls in these games. And he's like, yeah, I'll use all 10. I'd rather use them than bring them home. So listen, you're going to have a game like this in your summer league. It was great to see the high end of what he could do in the first game. And I'm excited about him. I think there's a reason that the Celtics treated him a little differently than second-round picks of the past. You didn't have volunteer events and press conferences and all those kind of things for second-round picks in the past. And you'd heard that this was a guy they liked in the first round if the number was there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you think about what Brad Stevens said though on draft night, and it seems like even if there were guys that they were targeting for the 25th pick, that they were gone, and the next person that they were committed to is Jordan Walsh. And I think it
seemed like it was your guy Omax who went like a pick before.
I think that's the one guy, right? That's the one guy who I think was, well, at least according to reports, that slipped through the Celtics' fingers, so to speak, right? And they say, okay, well, this is the next version of him, or the second best, that was in what they're looking for, and that's in Jordan Walsh. You see the comparison between the two, right? I mean, in terms of being an energy guy off the bench that could defend, aren't afraid of that moment. You could tell he has that, rah-rah in him too, right? If he makes the big plays, then he can really get the guys going. And I think that's very telling of what the Celtics are trying to do in reshaping their identity. Being tougher, a lot of the times I felt like throughout that Miami Heat series, they were just, Miami just beat them up, in terms of what was it, mentally or just in terms of physicality. I think he's the guy that the Celtics want to develop and see what they get out of him, and they're very excited about that because of what he does in terms of the intangibles and just having that instinct to make plays. He just seems like that type of guy. So you give him the reps, give him some NBA experience, and who knows, he may surprise you in his rookie season.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll play some in Maine. He looks good playing off JD, who's going to be back in Maine after signing a two-way today.
Yeah,
he hasn't looked great, and I've never been the biggest fan of him just because I think you need to set yourself up for the kind of passing he does with scoring. And, he struggles to shoot, struggles to finish in the lane going back to Alabama. Some baffling turnovers in these two. Tony Dobbins, who's coaching the team, says, he's getting a lot of assists too. So he's happy about that. But the numbers are very high on the turnover front, and they've been some bad decisions. He's not handling pressure well. You want to see him break out of this by the end of the stretch here. So I always expected him to be back on a two-way. He doesn't have a minute of NBA experience yet, so I don't know how you could have given him a full roster spot at this point. And, you have 4 guards in front of him. it's a good thing you got him back on the two-way. No one else had that interest in giving him a full-term deal, because I think the Celtics, if that came along for JD, probably would have, let him go pursue that. And it's good that he's going to be back and developing, because he's still so young. You can see the flash of talent here with the passing. So is he going to have room to develop and grow into the player he is, or will eventually come here in the NBA? I'd still lean no and say that's probably not going to happen with Boston. But you invested in him with a second-round pick. You put a lot into his development in Maine last year, so you might as well see it through.
Yeah, you got to see how he responds. And facilitating is a big part of what the Celtics need out of that backcourt. That's their path to playing time, any playing time, right? And I think JD, that's a big part of the game that he has to work on. I just felt like he was forcing the issue a lot. A lot of the passes that we saw in game one were way more smoother, right? I mean, I just felt like he was just more in flow with the team, with the offense. And I feel like against the Wizards, he was just forcing plays that just simply weren't there, right? I remember this one play where he threw it inside and there was literally 3 Wizards players there, and I just felt like, whoa, like he's got to find a way to, read defenses and know how to make switches and make changes on the fly. And I think that's a big part of his game and his development, because like you said, I mean, he's kind of limited offensively in terms of scoring. He's not going to knock down a bunch of 3-pointers. He can get inside. Sometimes he struggles with finishing, at the rim. So facilitating is his way to earning a roster spot, a permanent one. But he got the two-way. I think he's certainly worth that investment. Spending another season in Maine, and who knows? We'll see what happens. I mean, you look at the past Celtics players. I mean, this was kind of a while ago, but I feel like that helps for a lot. It helps a lot of guys, especially someone like Rozier is the first one that pops my mind. I mean, he made vast improvements in his last year in Maine, and that's what literally led to him, well, obviously Kyrie Irving getting hurt as well, but getting those meaningful minutes in Boston. And maybe something similar could happen with JD. I'm not saying he's going to turn into Scary Terry, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes that 1 year in Maine makes all the difference. And obviously in this Celtics, in that backcourt, at least right now, the way things are, they can always use some help in terms of someone that can come in, facilitate, and just, calm, or run the offense rather, and do it in a calm manner where you're not, stacking up turnovers coming off the bench.
Yeah, so he'll get his chance again in Maine this year. Probably won't see much action at all in Boston, especially if Banton comes in officially here. I guess it's a finger injury. They, had him sit out these first 2 games. I think he's going to play a little bit later in the week, so that'll be something to look forward to in the last 2, or I guess 3 Summer League games out here. We won't be here for them in person, but we'll have some videos and such as this team continues its journey out here. Starting Wednesday night against the Lakers, I think, is their next game out here. J Scrub, it's what you're looking for. The last note I'll throw out there on him, because I know he is exciting some people. Nice jump shot, especially from that elbow. Plays with real poise. I thought he made a few good passes tonight. We talked to him briefly yesterday, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to show what I can do out here. You've got to impress some people. And you do stuff like this, you're going to be in line for a 2-way deal, especially now that teams have 3 of these. He's had 3 seasons in the NBA so far, so this would be his last 2-way deal. And, a guy like this, Josue, who's more of a scorer with the ball in his hands, I don't think he's going to help the big Celtics team in any way, but, he's going to fit in on that main team, and however they want to develop Walsh and Davison and some of these other guys down there. It is important to have a scorer like this that you can feed the ball and, knock down some shots and, help contribute to make that a competitive team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see a lot of those instincts. And he's not afraid to take those shots, and you're seeing a guy who's coming from a junior college, right? And it shows in some ways, in terms of how raw he is, but also shows in how he's really eager for this opportunity. And like you said, this is
right. He's playing hard out there.
Yeah, he's playing really hard out there, and I feel like this is he knows that this is a great opportunity, if not with the Celtics, but maybe elsewhere. And I'm curious to see how he finishes the Summer League stint. Right, I want this to continue, and I want to see if he can grow, even if it's obviously only in this, next 3 games. But how he responds from these 2 performances, I think will be important, for him and important for his future.
Anything else on Summer League, Josue? Saw Phil Pressey today. That was fun. Pierce was at the game. I did not expect.
Yeah, I saw Paul. He was on. He did a quick interview.
If you question Pierce's dedication to the Celtics, July 9th Summer League game in front of top to bottom on this roster, players he's never heard of. I know Vegas probably helps, right? Going out to Vegas probably helps get him out here, but that was cool seeing him at the game.
Yeah, man, he's just a Celtic, man. He's just a pure Celtic, and I thought it was funny during the ESPN interview. They asked him not to be biased, and they're like, who do you see winning the East? Chris Haynes, my boy, my guy, Chris Haynes. And he's like, I mean, it's the Celtic. Like he said it as like as if like everyone is saying the same thing, like it's unanimous. Like it's the Celtic, named Porzingis, obviously Tatum and Brown, stating that they both have to step up as leaders, and stuff that we've been talking about the last month or so. I don't know if the Celtics are favorites, though. Would you say that? I don't know. I don't think it's that easy. There are other teams in the mix for sure, but hopefully this team isn't done. Hopefully this team isn't done, and I feel like Paul
go with the defending champs.
I feel like Paul almost wanted to say that, but he's just like, wait a minute, they might be done though. So let me just go with what I like right now. Let me go with the team that's on paper right now, and he says that Celtics are his favorites to win the East. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, yes, all right. I'm coming through.
Yeah, Celtics favorites on FanDuel by a hair there. And speaking of FanDuel, let's take a quick break here before we talk about a player the Celtics worked out here. They have one roster spot left, two two-way spots left.
Maybe this puts them over the top.
Here.
Maybe this is
will this put them over the top? Let's debate it when we get back.
We'll see.
Minute to tell everybody about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, that's $200. You can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Celtics out here doing a bunch of work, bunch of front office personnel here, a bunch of coaches. As we said, I ran the Sam Cassell-Jose way for a few minutes. He's having a good time out here.
That's my dude. How's he doing? He must be excited.
He's good. He's enjoying himself out here. I said, Pierce and Garnett going to be around a little bit more next year with you back? He's like, yeah, you know it. So I talked to him for a second. I think Charles Lee's out here. Joe's out here. I haven't run into him yet. Maybe we'll talk to him at practice this week or whatever. But
don't let Joe avoid you, Bobby. All right, don't let him.
Brad Joe, will talk this week.
Brad will talk, but Joe, don't let him get away with that. He's got to speak to the media.
I haven't seen him at the games this week. I haven't seen Jaylen Brown yet either, which is interesting. But we'll get to that.
He was at UFC last night. Not Jaylen.
Joe.
Missoula. Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, he's into jiu-jitsu.
He's in all that.
I guess I should have assumed, right? Yeah.
So the Celtics were one of a number of teams at John Wall's private workout here. And yes, there are a number of players out here working out, some surprising names. I saw Harry Giles, Dion Waiters, among others. They want to be in front of these teams. They want to show that they can still belong in the league. Wall did not play for much of last year. He had a awkward stint with the Clippers that they ended up shifting into Russell Westbrook, interestingly enough. After moving off Wall's contract in a trade deadline deal, and Wall didn't play the rest of the year. He hasn't played a lot since that Achilles tear. He hasn't looked great, but this is a guy who has passed well, who it would bring a veteran presence of some sort, and I'm sure it would be in that Blake role, Josue, where he wouldn't be playing a ton. Maybe he'd get some spot starts for his time, and show that he can still belong in this league because he is still relatively young and a guy who should still be in the NBA somewhere, but has really struggled to find footing since that injury.
Yeah, no, he has. I like the way you put that, Bobby. In that type of role, a Blake Griffin of the backcourt type of role, I don't hate it. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, Malcolm Brogdon. I know a lot of Celtics fans are saying, man, people have been really cruel about wanting him to get traded and about assets and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, his health is going to be a concern. And it's the same thing going into this year. I know last year it wasn't throughout the regular season, but when it mattered the most, it was, right? The Eastern Conference Finals, he just wasn't himself, and he was it was an injury that plagued him, right? That plagued his performance. So I feel like with someone like John Wall, if something like that happens, it's like an insurance policy for him, right? You have someone that can come in there, give you points, score, had that weapon off the bench that you can rely on for, I don't know, let's say 13, 15 minutes a game. I wouldn't mind that. But I don't think he solves in terms of what this team is looking for overall, whether it's a playmaker or someone that can come up with defensive stops. I mean, I just think at this stage of his career, that's just not who he is. And, that's a void that has to be filled in some regard when you're talking about taking someone like Marcus Smart off the team. I still believe in that. So I do like it. If I like it in the sense of having someone that if Brogdon goes down, you have someone that can go in there and score anywhere near double digits. Maybe he won't put up 20 every single night, but he'll give you double digits in scoring. But I don't like him. I don't like the idea of him, being like a 20-minute guy, being one of the first guys off the bench, a similar role than what we saw with the Clippers. I wouldn't be crazy about that, to be honest.
No, I wouldn't either, and I'm right there with you. I don't think there's enough left here. I think the chat's pretty down on this idea. He's a player I've liked in the past. I loved him on the Wizards. I think he deserved those opportunities with Houston and with
man, yeah, he was
with
the
Clippers.
Ball up, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and he would have brought something that this team needed in terms of facilitating, penetration, stuff like that. And he used to be a great defender too, but
really that's what I'm saying, man.
It really has been a long time since we've seen his best game. And,
right.
Listen, if they think this is the guy, and I haven't heard much on Blake and whether he's coming back this year. The door's open, I know, if he does want to come back. But this might be a backup plan if Blake doesn't come back in terms of that role. And remember, Josue, I was skeptical about Blake. Didn't think there was enough left in the tank.
Yeah, you weren't crazy about it, yeah.
But when you gave him a whole week to ramp up, get his body right, and go hard in extra minutes in a starting role, I really loved that about last year's team. That was actually one of my favorite things about last year's team was what Blake did for them. So if Wall's going to do that, I'm for giving it a chance.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously they'll find out a lot more what he looks like after this workout. But yeah, if that's the type of role that they bring him on to, to fill, then I don't hate it. As pressure to guys like Peyton Pritchard and Derek White, in my opinion, should be a starter. So you're looking to see how this team is going to revamp this second unit because they somewhat have to now that Marcus is out. Now that there's no Grant Williams, you're wondering what they're going to look like. And having someone that you can rely on to come in there and score, it's great, but he's not quite the same player. And that's what Brogdon is doing, right? So I wonder how that's going to work. Unless the Celtics are still trying to trade Brogdon, which I would think that if they're listening to offers, right? If they can, they will. If it's something that they think is worth exploring, but if not, I mean, that's going to be the first guy off the bench. And I don't know if John Wall would actually would I don't know, like help the situation.
No, if you're counting on him, if you're counting on
him to fill that role, and he's playing anywhere near 20 minutes, and he's one of the first ones off the bench. I don't know if that's where he's at right now in his career. I want to see what Peyton Pritchard looks like. I want to see, that yeah, I was going to say that battle for that because he's in the mix too, right? I mean, you can't forget about him.
We have 4 point guards in front of him.
Hopefully, we'll see. We'll get a glimpse of him in Vegas, but he's someone who's going to challenge Peyton Pritchard for that role for sure.
All right, let's get to the big one here. Celtics, all the reporting was that once they got to Vegas, them and Jaylen would sit down, get this contract done pretty quickly, and still none. 9 days later after July began. I don't know if the words panic, Josue, but the alarm should be ringing on Jaylen Brown and this extension. I don't know what's going to happen from here. I've suspected all along that they're probably weighing every option here, and I did a podcast with Sean Heiken earlier where we debated the Lillard thing again, and I don't think that's going to go away as long as Lillard's available here and that deal's not done. So I don't know if these two sides are going to leave Vegas with a contract, Josue. I haven't heard anything in that direction. Jaylen hasn't been around either game so far. I know he's doing events around here and the such. His family was at the game today, his brother Quentin. And, Jason was at the first game. No Jason here today at the second game. So I don't have a ton new on this, but the chatter's beginning out here. Everyone's wondering why this deal is not done. I'd say in terms of All the conversations going on out here. Number one's Lillard, of course. But number two is why hasn't this deal gotten done with Jaylen?
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know. I feel
it's
like
more than a little at this point.
Yeah, that's true. It's more than a little. If they leave Vegas without getting this done, then yeah, it's gonna get really complicated. I feel like, because if you're Jaylen Brown, you're like, which direction are we going in here, right? I mean, you traded for Kristaps Porzingis. We're trying to iron out this deal. I mean, we talked about it the last time we spoke, right? That negotiating is obviously part of the process, but at what point do you say, well, do you want to get this done right now or not? If you're Jaylen, right? And is the Damian Lillard thing a factor? If I'm Jaylen, I can't help but wonder that. Are you trying to get into that? Is that a last minute thing that you're trying to pull off? Is it one of those, like, if we don't get in, Miami will? There's a lot of things that if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm thinking about, in the sense of where this team's, where their head is at. And you wonder if he's wanting the ultimate max. That's obviously something that is worth considering as well. Is it a number thing? Are the Celtics trying to, again, throughout the negotiating, is he offended? Is it something like that? That's something that they can't get past at this point. You wonder. But if they don't get this thing done soon, I mean, yeah, it's going to get really interesting. And obviously, until Damian Lillard's situation irons itself out, that's always going to be in the back of his mind. It's going to be in the back of a lot of people's mind. Are the Celtics trying to make that last-minute deal to prevent a team like the Miami Heat acquiring Damian Lillard? And is Jaylen Brown involved, or is he not involved? I don't know. It's hard to say. But obviously, when you think about, what's in his contract, right? I mean, the second he signs, you can't trade him for at least a year. So obviously, everyone's going to think that when you got all these rumors swirling around Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, and when a lot of this reporting coming out seems like it's coming from the Celtics in terms of optimism of getting the deal done, you have to wonder if it is Jaylen. Is he trying to make them sweat? Is he trying to add as much to this deal as he possibly can? I don't think it's numbers that they're debating here. I think there was generally interest on both sides here in terms of doing a supermax. That was the goal all along, was getting that All-NBA so you could push this number to him. And I don't think there's a huge benefit to lowballing him. In fact, now that you sent Grant Williams out, you're able to use that luxury tax saving to actually give Brown this contract here. So I don't think it's a number thing. I don't think it's a salary thing. I don't think it's a contract thing. You have to ask at this point and wonder, does Jaylen want to lock himself in for 5 years with the Celtics? Or does he want to explore free agency next summer? Because this deal, of course, will be there next summer if the Celtics do want to keep him at that point. But if you're Jaylen, you also have to wonder, if you're not going to sign an extension, will this team trade you on your 1-year deal here? Because you're risking a lot if you're the Celtics going to free agency next summer. And I don't have a whole lot of new information on this saga, but it's just very weird that this isn't done.
Yeah, that could be it. Well, if you're Jaylen, would you take it? How would you take
the money?
No. I'm saying, obviously. Yeah. But I'm saying, how would you take it if you saw a trade for Porzingis like that? Like, would you be like, great, like the trade that helped me? Or are you thinking, wait a minute, that could be potentially another guy who, you have to re-sign, and then me, and then Tatum? Like, do I really want to lock into this thing right now? Or is this my way to get out? You know what I mean? Like, is that something that
raises your eyebrow for sure, especially if he was a Marcus proponent? And I know they had their ups and downs through the years, and we talked about that with
but
Marcus,
then that's weird though, right, Bobby? Because like if you're all in, right? If you're all in being a Celtic and you're all in to getting that championship with the Celtics, and you're like, man, we got Kristaps Porzingis, like, do you put something out there? Or are you excited? I mean, I guess that's outside.
Yeah, he hasn't said anything.
That's outside of Jaylen's character, I guess. But I don't know, man. It's so
there couldn't be any less enthusiasm right now.
But that's the thing, though. That's who he is too. He's very mysterious like that, and you wonder where his head is at. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, maybe he wants to go through the whole ordeal of being wine and dine and talking to other teams, or is he not
hearing?
Yeah, he's not hearing something that's going to make him sign right away. You wonder, but yeah, I mean, being traded is obviously a risk. But if you're Jaylen, I don't think you're necessarily thinking about that, because if that does happen, you're like, well, here we are. I guess you guys don't really want me. All that talk wasn't genuine. It
was weird right from the moment he got asked at that press conference after Game 7 about negotiations this summer. It was just like,
that 15-second. Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, like the 10, 12-second pause, and then I don't understand the question. Yeah,
you got to be thinking about every scenario right now here with him, because it's just It's strange. There's no other way to put it at this point. I mean, they've had almost 2 weeks to do this, and it doesn't seem any closer to being done, even after a full weekend of being here with them in Vegas. We'll take some questions if anyone wants to toss them out, any other topics or anything anyone wants to add here. We're going to get out of here soon. I got to eat. Josue's got to get to bed out there on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah. It's dinner time for you.
Yeah. It was a long weekend, Josue. We're almost at the end of it here, but we're gonna keep the coverage going for a couple more days out here in Vegas in case anything, including the Jaylen Brown deal, goes down. I'm on Grant watch out here. That trade's not official yet, but hopefully we'll run into him out here. And of course, one more sponsor break before we wrap this here. All right, our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. 75 high quality ingredients that give me all the nutrients, energy, focus, strength, and clarity I need every day to hit the ground running. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1. You get a free year supply of vitamin D, 5 free travel packs of AG1 with your first purchase. Just go to drinkag1.com/garden. Make sure you hit that. drinkag1.com/garden. Check it out. That's AG1. All right, Josue. I wish we had more fanfare and topics here. I thought we might have some interesting news.
No, people they've just put in their comments. They don't ask questions in this show, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least relevant ones.
I mean, in short, yeah, Celtics do have their mid-level. You can't cross this line that they're just about $2 million short of and use your mid-level. So the Celtics effectively lose their mid-level by being too close to the second apron this year. So wouldn't expect a mid-level signing from the Celtics this year. There's other penalties to crossing this line, have to match money in trades, can't add guys via sign and trade. And your draft pick in 7 years can't be traded if you cross this line. And if you go over in 2 out of 4 years, it moves to the end of the first round. So you effectively lose a first-round pick for being over this line. Can't get buyout players either. So there's a number of penalties.
You can't even, I was just going to say, you can't even get buyout players. Like, you can't even do the whole March thing and be like, hey, who wants to win a championship? Come to Boston. No, all that's gone. That's wild. Yeah, that's the second apron stuff.
I'll give you this one, Josue. Is there any candidate here? I think Horford's the big one, but Horford's on the older side now.
Who's replacing the toughest factor from Smart and Grant? I think it's got to be one of the Jays, to be honest with you. Probably Jaylen.
That's what they're thinking of, right?
Yeah.
Ahmed's saying Sam Cassell.
That's a good one. He was tough. No, I'm glad. Actually, you know what? I'm glad that we got that first question because did you see what Pat Beverly said about his conversation with Boston?
Right. Yeah, I want to tell everybody.
So he says that the Celtics were asking him to wait and that they were going to create space to offer him the MLE, the mid-level. And he was like, the natural Beverly form is like, nah, if they really want you want to do it now. So I went with the team that wants me right now. But from our perspective, it's like, well, wait a minute. Does that mean that the Celtics are dead set on trading Brogdon? Because Brogdon's $20 million. That's the clog right there, right, Bobby? That would really get them way under, and they wouldn't be anywhere near that second.
Maybe, yeah, that might have all come together there, which I wouldn't have loved. I'm not the biggest Beverly guy.
I'm not crazy about it either, and it's funny because before the bubble, I was big on Beverly, and then he started acting weird. He pushed, started pushing people and stuff, and I was like, wait a minute.
Imagine if they replaced Brogdon with Beverly. Would have made me.
I'm thinking about it. They were replacing Smart Beverly in terms of like being that guy that.
But you would have had to move Brogdon out too, as you said, to save some money there.
Oh, well, yeah, right. But I mean, like, just filling that role as the guy who gets under people's skin.
It seems like if I'm just piecing this together, the Clippers thing might have been Brogdon for Powell, and then you would have had enough savings there to sign Beverly too. So your backcourt would have been.
But that's Beverly. The thing about it. I think that's still a possibility, but they're waiting to see.
Well, no Beverly now, but yeah.
Well, I mean, not Beverly, but the Clippers deal. Yeah. Like the Celtics trying to reach a deal with the Clippers that involves Brogdon because they need a second point guard, man. They need a point guard bad over there. And if this thing falls through with James Harden, if there's no deal there, that trade for Brogdon could still be on the table, because you wonder what's going to be. Well, you wonder if a trade for Harden happens, there's not going to be whole lot of pieces left, right? Those pieces that they're going to give to Philly, whether it's Powell or Marcus Morris or whatever combination of 2 or 3 guys, the Celtics. I think that would help the Celtics, that they could acquire someone like that, right? Whether it's a Powell or Morris or someone like that, and they would get their
staying in Philly now. So yeah, that would open up the Clippers to a deal once again. And Celtics keep talking like Brogdon's part of the picture here. He actually called O'Shea Brissett, who they played together when they were in Indy. So
right.
Brogdon's still operating like he's part of this team, and it seems like they're anticipating him being back next year. But it's a money thing, and if they want to create some wiggle room to add some other guys here, that might be part of the reason for looking at Wall and some of this other stuff here. But again, I want Brogdon back, as I talked about with Caitlin last week. I think he fit with this team. I think he's an important voice here. He's a tough player in many ways, but the physical toughness people are looking at, it's of course Horford. Brissett is going to have to contribute some of that. They lost a lot in that department, Josue, and maybe that was why they want to go out and get a Beverly there.
I just feel like if you bring Brogdon back, his usage rate is going to go up, right? I mean, this is going to be sort of what we anticipated when they first got him last year, where he could finish games for you and be that facilitator and get guys the ball when they need it. So I think he takes on a larger role. How that plays out in terms of his health throughout the course of the 82-game season, we'll have to wait and see. But I just think that's the way he's seeing things. That's the way the franchise sees it if they're unable to trade him.
Right.
But we'll see.
All right, that's it. Celtics 0-2 here in Summer League. They're back at it on Wednesday. We might have some remote coverage of that. We'll see. And then any news that happens over the next couple of days here, I'm hanging out Josue all ears down here. I'll keep an eye on this Jaylen front. See who I run into. See who I can talk to, and maybe we'll break some news out here. Who knows? That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Get some dinner, Bobby.
Tuning in. Gonna go eat. We got a meet and greet open bar, Josue, tonight, courtesy of the NBA.
Man. Speaking my name.
We're going to go enjoy that. See you guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks,
Jordan
guys.
Walsh, a bunch of other interviews up from tonight's game, as well as yesterday's. Phil Pressey talked tonight, too, if you want to go check that out on the main channel. And check out Celtics All Access. Talk with Gary out here yesterday. Got an interview lined up on Tuesday that'll be over there, so subscribe there as well. Thanks to Ahmet for producing here tonight, as always, and we'll see you guys later this